everyone. So today's webinar, we're going to be looking through the features of Spira 7.7, the eagerly awaited version that contains the first version of our Scaled Agile functionality. And I will have a live app for you, so don't worry. But first of all, let's just go through some of the key features in this new version. And like any version, there's also bug fixes and other small enhancements. And for that information, I would go look at the published roadmap for the product to get the full list. But today we're focusing on the main features, which is the Scaled Agile functionality. And that comprises two main parts. Firstly, program capabilities and program milestones. And I'll talk a bit more about what those are and why they're important before we get into the live app. So first of all, this is part of a larger initiative at Inflectra to really help Spira Plan be available and be used on much larger programs and initiatives across large organizations. And just to mention, this is only available in Spira Plan. So if you are using Spira Test or Spira Team, this functionality will not be available and you would need to upgrade. The intention going forward is that functionality that is geared at the team level, so that's product and lower, will be available in Spira Team and Spira Plan, whereas functionality that is program and portfolio or higher will be the focus of Spira Plan. And that really helps differentiate the different features, the different editions of the product. So if you're working in a team environment, all you need is Spira Team and you're good to go. It can manage your boards, backlogs, requirements, test cases, defects, all of that good stuff at a product level. And that product can contain many releases and versions and teams, but ultimately it's for one system. And then obviously you can have multiple products still, and we do have the program navigation. But when you're starting to plan at a program level and be able to track functionality and dependencies, that's where you're going to want to be looking at the Spira Plan edition. Now, today's webinar is going to be focusing on the top graphic, which is the program functionality. And for those who've been using the tool for a while, you'll know that we've had the planning board, the releases, and the incidents parts for a while, those three navigation items. We added product grids in the 7. I think the 2 or 3 earlier this year or late last year, and that allowed us to track products and have custom properties on them. And that's been very useful for project portfolio management, where you can track different products and have different fields and attributes and sort them and filter them and so on, and manage product charters. So that functionality, that's the yellow hexagon that you see in the top of the menu, that was added. And so the two new features we've added in this release are the second and third item, capabilities and milestones, right there. Now, the plan going forward, I'll talk more about this at the end, is that we will replicate a lot of this functionality then next year, if all goes to plan and if there's good feedback, on the portfolio level, and that the portfolio level will have strategic outcomes and portfolio milestones. So that's what you're going to be seeing in this new version, the two new menu items, capabilities and program milestones, and that will be, again, a precursor to what we'll do next year at the portfolio level. Now, obviously, when we go through this functionality, no doubt you'll be looking at this and saying, what about the planning board? What about the existing releases page? What about the existing incidents page? Those have not yet changed in this version, but the plan will be to take stock of the new functionality and eventually update those as well to take advantage of the new artifacts and really integrate those more closely into capabilities and milestones. But that is not yet available. So releases, incidents, products, and planning board do all work the same way they did before. So why do we want to have this functionality? What's the business case? Well, the business case, if you look at this diagram we have here, is that traditionally in Spira, you had products and those products had requirements. And if your product was an agile team or an agile project or an agile system, you would have things like epics, features, and stories. If you're doing a sort of multi-level, essential scaled agile type project. If you're doing a traditional project, you might have business requirements, system requirements. If you're doing a Scrum project, you might just have epics and stories. But whatever you have at the product level, you would have essentially a structured backlog for one product, say product 1, PR1. You would have another backlog that will be a structured backlog for product PR2, for example. Now, in this diagram, I'm only showing you the higher level features. I'm not showing you the story level, but below the epics and features, you can imagine there'll be stories as well. Now, the problem we run into very quickly then is I've got these two different teams working on different systems. Now, let's say there's an overarching, and if you look at the concept of Scaled Agile, the idea is, how do you put the business in control? Because those teams are self-organizing as per the Agile Manifesto, and they're looking at the features and the epics and the stories, and they're picking and choosing which ones to put in each sprint to deliver increments of functionality. And that's great because it gives the team more autonomy and avoids the micromanagement of a more traditional approach. Now, so therefore, what about when you want to have the business plan at a higher level? How do you do that? So that's where we now have the ability to have program functionality. So with program functionality, what you're now going to be able to do is define what we call capabilities. And we deliberately avoided the word requirement because we wanted to make it a higher level. And then if you look at SAFe, for example, they would call them, I think they're called, it's complicated depending which bit of SAFe, but value streams, or they might be called program backlogs, and you have program epics and program features, and that makes sense. But we decided we wanted to have a different nomenclature because requirements are really at a product level, they're a system level, and then we wanted to have something that was higher level. And what we realized is that when you actually have multiple different products providing functionality, when you bring those products together, the business might assemble those to give an end-to-end capability that you're delivering to a customer and delivers business value. So when you talk about business value, what you're talking about is if I have a product one and that delivers some functionality, but by itself, it doesn't deliver business value. But when you have functionality in product two and you put those together, you now have business value. An example might be online banking. You need to have a mobile app to look at your bank balance. That mobile app's going to use a website to get its data from to get an API feed. So the web-based banking system has to have a new API to support the mobile app. Well, there's no point releasing the API by itself. That's a technical feature, but there's no end user value. You need to have the mobile app, obviously, but unless it gets data, it's just going to be demoware. So it's only when those two products come together that you have business value. So that's the key thing. Putting those two together gives you the business value. Oh, is there an issue with my audio? Someone was mentioning. Teresa, can you hear me okay? Before I go any further. I'm dealing with this new laptop.
Yeah, no, you're great.
Okay, good, thank you. Sorry, I saw in the chat, just because this is my new laptop, and I've had some issues with Skype this morning. Good, thanks. So do let me know if it changes. So with the end-to-end functionality of product one and product two, let's say you have that green feature and that's going to deliver value between product one and product two. It's only when that feature is available that you have an end user receiving value. Now, in the old version of Spira, there was not really a way to manage or plan that. And there's two aspects. First of all, let's say that feature, that green feature that you see on the bottom left of the capabilities section, let's say that's tied to an epic in product one and an epic in product two. Until Epic 1 and Epic 2 are delivered in Product 1 and Product 2, that capability doesn't exist. And if that's the most important feature that you're delivering to your client, you want to know that it's on track or it's behind and what's the progress. And so in Spira, you can see that. The second example, which is an interesting one, is which Spira doesn't address at all previously, was let's say I've got a new feature in the program, which is I want to have a new feature that's going to be delivering, chatbot-based banking, and that's a new feature capability for the program. Well, guess what? You need the API, so that's a feature in product 2, which is the web-based system, but we haven't got a chat bot team. We don't have a team to do anything, and we now realize we have to stand up a whole new product PR3. Doesn't exist yet. Now, in the old version of Spira, there's no way of knowing you need that. So not only does it let you take bottom-up work and track it against high-level objectives, which it does do, but the second thing it lets you do is take a capability at a program level and identify there's a whole project missing, there's a whole product missing. So you could then build out a feature at a capability at the program level, say a capability at the program level, and then realize that 50% of it doesn't exist. And now you create a new product PR3, stand up a new team, and then you define product requirements to fulfill that part of the feature. And that's top down, top to bottom. So it works in both directions. It lets you do a top-down planning where you can build a whole bunch of program capabilities for products that don't even exist yet. Maybe it's 2 years in advance, and you can look at that. And the second thing is it lets you take existing products and existing requirements that we have in Spira and track their progress against high-level objectives. So it really works in those two directions complementary, tracking status and planning future work. And as we start to look in the future beyond this to strategic objectives at a portfolio level, you can imagine it's even one level higher. At a business level, you might say, our goal for Q1 is to be the #1 bank. That's the strategic objective in, say, #1 bank in lending. And every single program and product has to map to that #1, goal, #1 bank in lending. Any feature that ties to that goal is going to be more important, and those backlogs get prioritized. And any feature that's to do with some other strategic objective, which is more Q2, Q3, or maybe it's not that important. Number one bank in consumer loan, in consumer finance or something, maybe is lower. So it lets you prioritize at a top-down level and then track the work being done against those. And the key thing is, because we're doing it at these different levels in this structured way, we're avoiding the dangers of micromanagement, because that happens when you take a product level requirement or feature and you dump it into a portfolio and say, hey, there's this feature at product one, that developer's working on it. The product owner, why is it late? And now the head of the company is like yelling at the developer that why is that product feature late? Whereas really what you want to do is enable the people to make strategic objectives, have capabilities at the program level, and the teams deliver. So you're giving autonomy to each level, and thus you're allowing planning at a scaled level, scaling agile without micromanagement, which is the big danger if you just start to apply product level thinking to a program or portfolio. You end up with teams being told, get this task done by this date, and again, that's an anti-pattern for agile. Okay, so that explains, I think, hopefully some of the context that we have here at the capability level. So the next thing we have is how it's going to look in the application, and I'm going to show you this live in the app, so don't worry too much. But basically, you have a hierarchy of capabilities, and we've deliberately made it a two-level hierarchy to avoid making the temptation to have a very, very detailed set of requirements that ends up being the product requirements. So it's a two-level hierarchy where you can define parent and child capabilities, and then you link those capabilities, particularly the child ones, to product requirements. And you can see here, the customer can manage payments as a capability, and that's linked to 4 different product requirements. 3 are in the mobile banking product, and 1 is in the web portal product. And so what you can see there is that we've got different products providing functionality, providing status and value and progress back to the parent. Each of those products is working autonomously, but we can now track what's the progress against our high level requirement. And you can imagine this could work for all the different requirements, all the different capabilities, in that tree on the left. So that's how the capabilities will work. And I'm going to show you this live. The next thing we have to think about is milestones. So what are milestones? Well, milestones, effectively, you could think of them as like releases at a program level. So at the product level, you have sprints in Spira, and sprints typically are take your stories and you map your stories to a sprint, and then you take your epics and you map those potentially to a release or a sprint, or depending on your methodology. You will want to understand when will that story be delivered, in which sprint, and in which release is that increment going to be delivered. Now, the next thing is at a program level, we have the same thing. We do want to know when is that capability going to be ready. Now, we don't want to be thinking month by month, or maybe even week by week. That's really a product level. But what you're thinking about is, what are the main milestones? When is this capability going to be ready? So it might be at the quarter level. Maybe by the end of Q1, we want these 3 programs capabilities to be released. Maybe it's monthly, but it certainly shouldn't be smaller than that. So the idea is these milestones are much less granular than what you see in the product level. So for that reason, and because they're not necessarily software, they could be a project management milestone. We're calling them milestones rather than releases. We're not calling them sprints. In Scaled Agile, they would call them program increments. But that, again, seems to be very software centric. And because these milestones might contain hardware, software, they might be project management tasks, risk management, mitigation tasks. There's a lot more that goes to it. So we've decided to go with the term milestone, which is an industry standard term in project management. And so what you'll do is you can figure out, of these program level capabilities, which milestone will they be part of, 1, 2, or 3 in this example here. So now we have the milestones, this capability in this milestone. We do need to know, how does that affect the planning at the project level? So we do then link the releases, and you can link releases and sprints to a milestone. And that lets you see if someone moves the release date out, it will obviously impact the milestone. I mean, because again, it's a loose coupling. We deliberately said we don't want to have it so that if the project manager moves, or the program manager moves the milestone in by a week, that suddenly all the products have 1 less week. That's not, again, that's not an agile approach. That's an anti-pattern. What we're doing there is micromanagement. So the idea is the project teams are still responsible for understanding the sprints, the releases, what are the dates of when they're releasing functionality, what's their update cadence. They're doing CI/CD, and then at the program level, we understand when we want this capability to be released, which might be the result of multiple deployments, over multiple pipelines and builds. And so they're able to specify that, but they can have visibility then into the release pipeline and into the release schedule, but they're not directly micromanaging it. So that's the concept. You see the visibility from the milestone down to the release, but you're not controlling it directly. And that was a deliberate design choice to avoid the dangers of micromanagement. So then how does that look in the system? And again, we'll see it live. This is just some PowerPoint. There is the, on the left-hand top left, you've got the program milestones, and we've gone for a graphic for the icon that looks like a release but is multiple, so it fits into the design concept, and that's a milestone. Unlike in products, it's a flat list. It's not a hierarchical list. Again, design was to keep it simple. We didn't want to have very complex hierarchies of program milestones. It's not meant to be that granular. That level of granularity should be at the product level. So that's to avoid that temptation, we've enforced it as a flat list. And then each of those milestones has a date when it's due by, and then you link the releases, which have their own start and end dates and their own statuses to that particular milestone. And you can then track how does the date of the releases contained within the milestone compare with the milestone itself, giving you top-down planning, top-down visibility, but also bottom-up reality check. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So before we get into the live demo, which is always the exciting part, I also want to mention some things that are coming out for 2023. Current plans, if you look at our backlog, someone put a question, I see it in the chat. Basically, what's coming out next after this will be additional program dashboard reporting widgets, and we're still working out the scope of that. Will it be more reports? Will it be more widgets being worked on? The current thinking is to have more reports up front, so you can run reports, capability report, milestone reports, summary and detail, all the usual output formats, PDF, Word, etc. We'll then look at adding some more reporting widgets, dashboard widgets, and all that stuff. So definitely reporting is one of the next big pieces. Another area we're looking at adding, which is not actually directly related to Scaled Agile, but it's quality of life stuff that will be in the system. As we're building out more of the general new boards that we're going to talk about, we are adding two quality of life things. One is meta tagging. So you can have tags rather than custom fields. So obviously we have custom fields. People have asked for meta tags, free-form text tags. We have those for documents. We're going to be improving the document functionality and then adding it to the other artifacts, and then also adding support for mentions using the @ symbol in the text editor. We may also add some Spira apps for other niche features. We are looking at doing some AI stuff with ChatGPT using Spira apps. Those are some of the other things for 2003. And if you look at the public roadmap, those are the things listed. The other big thing, which actually is not listed here, because it already sort of exists, is we're going to be taking the new boards out of beta. And that's an important thing by the end of the year. And that's not just simply saying they're out of beta. It's taking all the great feedback you've given us. We've had feedback from our partners. Many of you were on this call today. We've had feedback from some of our customers. We did a user summit in Mannheim a couple of weeks ago when me and Shriram were there, and we got some really good feedback there as well. So we're taking all that feedback that's still from the different customers, partners, and other constituents, and we'll be implementing what we see as the high priority enhancements and necessary features. And at that point, we'll take the boards out of beta, as well as updating the incident board to match. And then we will move the old boards into a legacy view. So the default view will be the new ones. That's at the product level. Those boards will all be done at the product level. We will then look into 2024 about some other things. So if we now look at 2024, which is the next slide, we're now looking at some different things to work on, and some of that prioritization hasn't been done yet. If you look at the roadmap, we've got some things listed. So the things that we're looking to do and the exact scope will be dependent on feedback from yourselves. Continuing out, building out the portfolio level, adding strategic objectives and milestones, which will basically be very similar to what we're showing today at the portfolio level. Additional widgets and reporting, custom properties on programs and portfolios to match what we did for the products, and then also looking at adding or migrating the new boards to the program level to replace the board that's there today, and maybe at the portfolio level. So those are the kinds of things we're focusing on for 2024. There's also a bunch of smaller stuff we might do. There's also some functionality around traceability we're looking at doing. We had some feedback from our Mannheim summit. That's an area they feel we could add more functionality. So more traceability views for some of our regulated industry clients. Again, 2024 is still being figured out based on your feedback. So feel free to let us know in the chat or other mechanisms what you'd like to see. Log a support ticket obviously is another way as well. And with that, I'm going to move on to the application demo. Okay, so inside of Spira, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, we've added these two new areas, capabilities and milestones. We still have the product view, we still have the planning board view, the releases and incidents. Now, actually, just to quickly mention, if you look at the releases view shows you the releases in the current product. Now, if you look at this, one thing you're right away going to say is, well, where are the milestones? Well, the milestones are here. So it would make sense to integrate this view into the milestone view. So longer term, I would imagine that the release view will go away. It will be incorporated into the milestone view. We haven't done that yet as people transition to the new functionality. People may not have defined milestones yet, so it made sense to keep the old view. But the plan will be to migrate this releases view into the milestone view in some fashion, or integrate milestones into the releases view. Something to do with these two will get more closely integrated. The instance view does show you all the instances, if there are any. There aren't any in this particular program, but it does mean we'll take a stock of this as well and decide how to integrate the capabilities in the instance together. And the product view shows you all the products in the program where you can sort and filter by different fields. No changes planned for this view. This works well as is and makes sense. And the last one is the boards. The boards don't use capabilities yet. They're still using the traditional requirements from the product level. These boards will get completely refactored. They'll be refactored to use the new board UI, but also we will be integrating capabilities and requirements together into the board again in some fashion. Hasn't been done yet. So know that the milestones, the boards and the releases are really pending. They will get refactored significantly in light of the new functionality. Products and instance will largely stay the same. So with that, let's move into capabilities. So in this example, this is the customer experience program. If you sign up for a new trial after next week, you will get a version of 7.7 with the new sample data loaded. So definitely if you want to play around with the system, that's a really good way of doing it. Just sign up for a trial on our website using our cloud version. You can play around with it. If you're an existing Spira plan customer and you upgrade, you will get the new functionality, but you won't get the new sample data. So therefore, if you want to see the new samples, just sign up for a trial. So if we now look at customer experience, that's an example in the financial services industry. This is one of two main programs. We have two programs in our fictitious banking company. We've got our back office functionality, we've got a billing system, and we've got our Terminus T24 core banking. We've got our consumer facing side of the bank, and we have two things. We've got mobile banking. Imagine it's an iOS and Android app. We have a web portal. That's where you go to log in and check your bank balance, check functionality, check transfers and all that stuff, maybe make a loan payment, but it's all into the web browser. Now, what we said, as we showed you earlier on, is there may be functionality in the mobile banking app that is dependent on the web portal existing. There may also be the reverse. There may be functionality on the web portal, like sending an SMS code to authenticate yourself, or some kind of authentication that uses the mobile version. So there could be interconnections between the two. And there certainly could be capabilities that span them both. So if you look here, what we've got is we've defined some high-level capabilities that we want to be able to do across these two programs. The first thing is we've got some authentication functionality. Customers want to be able to connect to their account with username and password. They also want to use biometric access, and maybe this biometric access is going to require their mobile device, even if it's a web version. We look at payments and transfers. Well, one of the key things we want to do is I want a customer to be able to manage payments and make transfers to a third party. So let's look at those. So let's say I've got a capability that is managing transfers to a third party. There are different types of capability. These are the default types we have here. Is it an improvement? Is it an innovation? Is it a customization? Is it a configuration or collaboration? And what's the status? Is it in progress? Is it new? Is it already done? Now, a couple of things to notice. These statuses and these types are customizable. So you can go over here into the administration at the program at the system level. So these configurations right now, they are system wide. They're not template based because templates are tied to products, and they're not tied to a specific program because they span potentially multiple programs. So right now they are system wide, and you can define the status of a capability, the type, and the priority, and you can have custom fields. So if I was to go here, let's control click on a couple of these and bring up in different tabs. Go over here. You can see we can define the capabilities, and we've defined a typical, to do, reviewing, ready, in progress, done, and rejected sort of workflow. There's not actually at this state a workflow. So at this point, if you go to the capability, there's no workflow drop down, just a status picker. So at this point, we're not enforcing workflow. We're not yet having rules and required fields and things that you can do at a product level. It's not yet as sophisticated as that. Again, depending on your feedback, we may add that. We may decide that doesn't make sense. It's a much higher level of set of planning. Doesn't need that level of granularity. That's really feedback from our users. And hold on, the get controls in the way. And then if you go to the standard types, we have different types of capability. We could add new ones, epics features, program epics, program features. You could add those too. So if we wanted to add a new one called, program feature, we could do that. We want to add an epic. So if you want to follow safe nomenclature, you could do that. Different types. And then custom properties. We haven't added custom properties, but you can add custom properties just like you would do at the product level, and the same sort of functionality. Different types of property. Different display position can be specified. Is it required? Is it optional? Is it rich text? Is it plain text? If it's text in this case, all that's available. And there are at this point 30 custom properties. So whereas we allow 99 at a product level, we do allow 30 at a program level. If we go then to the, also priorities can be set as well. And the priorities at this point, we have a 3 priority system, high, medium, and low. Again, if you want to have a 4 priority system with critical, you can do that, just add it in. So very flexible, very customizable. If we now go back to our capability, I want to hide the floating controls because they're in the way. So if we go over here to our capability, we've defined its type as an improvement. We've now associated with a milestone. So we'll come back to milestones in a second, but basically because it's a transfer functionality, we've defined it to this milestone. So we'll come back to that 1 second. We've defined the priority, there are no custom fields, and the description is empty. Now it is a rich text editor. We could put in here more information such as, this capability will let consumers make payments to third parties, both inside the US and overseas. It will be high speed and faster than the current Swift backs systems. So defining the capability, and maybe you'd have KPIs, things like this is going to be a real-time transfer service. It's the best in the industry. No one's done this before. Maybe it's just simply a standard transfer service using Swift that is just going to be easier to use. Whatever the business value is it faster, easier, cheaper? Whatever the reasons for no fees, whatever's the reason for having this functionality, you would define all of that here at the capability level. And if you wanted to quantify things like what is the business, the benefit, you could have a custom field like benefit, faster, cheaper, first in the industry. Those can be custom fields. You can classify these in any different number of ways that you want. And now that we've defined this, we would go into requirements section, and we can now see that there are 3 different requirements in the 2 different products, mobile banking and web portal. One is done in mobile banking, one is done in web portal, and they contribute together to the overall progress. Now, when it comes to the metric, we've decided to keep it simple. It's 1 requirement, 1 vote. So each of these 3 is considered 1/3 of the overall progress. So 2 are completed, 1 is still in progress, and that's why it shows 2/3 done. We decided not to use story points because that doesn't make sense. If you, again, are an agile methodologist, story points are only valid within a team. They're relative to other story points in a product. They're not valid across products. So those estimates didn't make sense. So we decided to keep it simple in line with what we've done at the program and portfolio levels already with our current reporting. It's 1 requirement, 1 vote that updates to the capability. If we go to a different capability, we can see they're right here. And those particular requirements and the capability mapping, it's many to many. So I could add a different capability to a different requirement because maybe that one product feature supports multiple capabilities. And similarly, a capability will have multiple requirements. So it is a many to many relationship. So we'll come back in a second. Let's go to milestones. If we go to milestones, we can see these are our 2 deadlines. And right now it shows the owner, the status, and the type. Well, I would probably want to see the start date, probably want to see the end date. I might want to see the child start date. I want to see the child end date. So let's talk about those. So first of all, they just show me my 2 capabilities. One is around security and access management, because banking is really important that it has the data is secure. We are PCI certified. We have to get this done by the 6th of June. We committed to the industry that we would have all of our security and access management bulletproof and 100% done. I guess we missed that. So the end date has been missed. It's red. And you can see what happened. Again, this is just a demo. We haven't been actively managing this. The end date of one of the releases got pushed out. So that's what the difference is. The start and end date are the dates of the actual milestone. The child start and end date are the dates of the earliest release and the latest release. So we're giving you a min-max of the releases that are contained. So if someone in a product moves a release date out, it's going to affect the end date. It's not going to try to change the end date, but it's going to be available to compare against the end date. And you can see here we did actually breach the end date and it went red. That's also why the progress bar is red. If the end date had not been reached, this would show 50% green gray, not red gray. So let's look at it and drill down 1 second. If we click on the milestone, we can see milestones also have types. What is the purpose of this? Is it a retrospective? Is it a backlog review capability? What's the actual milestone that we're trying to meet? Is it a system demo? Is it the final release? So you can define different milestones. And just like we had with the capabilities, these are all defined and customized right here. So if you look at the statuses of a milestone, look at the type of a milestone, backlog review, capability review, retrospective, system demo. Maybe the other one would be, final product release, like that. And then we go at the statuses. Is it done, in progress, rejected, to do? 4 statuses. You can customize these as well. So we've made it very flexible at the program level. You can customize the statuses and the types. Keeps it very straightforward. And there are custom properties also at the milestone level. So you can add custom fields on the milestone itself. Maybe it's an internal milestone, maybe it's an external milestone. You could categorize them with a custom field. Maybe it's internal, maybe that a flag, like that. We can refresh our milestone. And is it internal or external? I guess that's external. This is meeting our PCI DSS requirements. So this would be a serious risk if it was a real project or program. And you can see here inside the product level, it's at the program level, sorry, there's the capability, there's the milestone, status is 50%. And so the set shouldn't be done. That's not necessarily good sample data. We'll change that. And guess what? You can see here, it was last updated, child start date, child end date, start date, and end date. So you get the high level information right here at the program level. But then if you click on the releases tab, you can see these are the 2 releases, and you can see the min and the max between them, which is used to calculate the child dates. So we're using that to give you visibility from the release level up to the portfolio level, program level. And if you want to see which capabilities are inside of this milestone, go to the capabilities tab, and you can see these are the 2 capabilities that we have that are dependent on this milestone. And this milestone needs to, need to be done by this date. So we can go from capabilities to milestones, milestones to capabilities, and then you can see from the product releases up to the milestone, product capabilities, release product requirements up to the capability. Getting used to it myself. So that's great. So you basically have that roll-up view. To go back to our PowerPoint 1 second. We have that view where the releases and sprints roll up to the milestone. We have that view where the capabilities get mapped to a milestone and the product requirements get mapped to the capability. So let's go ahead and add a new one. So let's say we have a new capability. So we'll create a new capability. And this would be a customer can manage or initiate new consumer loans. So we create this new capability, and we don't need to have at this point anything in the product level. It's to do, it's brand new. That's the default status. We can then say this is high priority. We want users to be able to initiate a loan through a web browser. And check on its approval status via either the web or mobile. So we're defining here the capability. And then what we would do is from that, we could then look at the requirements and say, well, first of all, do we have the right products? Well, we have mobile banking. Well, that would make sense from a being able to view the status, but to initiate the loan, we've said it has to go through the web. So on the web portal side, well, do we have anything around loans here? Let's see. Apply for a loan. We do. So that's great. We actually have a product that already has functionality. So we could then link that. We might want to manage alerts to support that as well. That's great. Now, if we found that they didn't existed, we would then decide that we would go into that product and we would add a new requirement. So we might decide that we actually want functionality around initiating a loan and having to add that. Now, we don't have to do that because it already exists. Now, to achieve the second part of my capability, I have to be able to check the approval status through either the web or mobile. So I can go to my mobile banking and I can search loan. What do we have? Anything here? Nothing. If we go to mobile banking, I think we only have web banking. I think we only have the functionality. We've already added the one around applying, so it's not shown. So we don't have anything. So now in real life, we've identified a hole from a top-down view. We've identified a hole in our functionality. So what we could do is go to our products, and we could go to, say, mobile banking, and we will then drill into mobile banking, which is right here. And we're going to go to requirements, and we would I'm just going to add at the bottom. I'll show all level 1. We would then add a new functionality, which would be view status of loan request, which is the brand new feature. We had the ability to initiate a loan, not one to view it. And we want to do the same thing for the web banking. So I can be a little clever here and export that to mobile, to web banking. I could obviously go into the other one and create it, but this is a bit easier. I'll just check into web banking, make sure I did that. And I'll go show 50. Yeah, so we now have 2 requirements, one in each product. One is in the mobile app, one is going to be in the web app, because there's different teams, different functionality. One is a native app, one is web. And then I can go back to my capability, and I can now search for loans and add that, and do the same thing for web portal loans, like that, save. So we've now got the ability to track the functionality. These are both obviously not started, and you can then track the progress here. So by doing that, we're now able to look at a particular capability and track the progress. Now, if you look at this, you notice, in fact, we're 25% done. If I go back to it, why is that? Well, because one of those functions was already written before. So the team had already started work on applying for a loan, but they don't know they have to be able to view the status of a loan request. The mobile team has done nothing on that either, and we haven't gotten the alerts haven't been done either. So only when these 3 additional pieces of functionality are done will this particular loan, the function lane capability, business value be available. Now for the milestone, we didn't track a milestone, but obviously let's look at our current milestones. Well, it's neither of these 2. It's a new milestone to have loan management. And so the new milestone might be, first version of loan processing. That's our new, and it's a final product release, or maybe it's a demo. That's up to you. Maybe it's an internal release, maybe it's an internal milestone. Let's say this is the actual release, so it's an external milestone. It's obviously in progress, and we'll save that. And then what we'll do is link our capabilities. And you can't currently do it from this page. You do have to go back to capability, but there's nothing listed. So if we go back to capabilities, I'll go back here. And I believe I can do it on the list page. Yes, but I have to obviously show the field. Show milestone, edit. And it's first version of loan processing. Hit save. Yep. Go back to my milestones page, or go here. There it is. Go to milestones. There it is. There we go. And it's showing 0% complete because it sort of started and it hasn't yet started. And as that capability gets progressed, that release. Now you may be wondering, why is it showing not started when 1/4 of the capability has been done? And that's a great question. I'll answer the question. To keep it simple, and because we believe done is done, the way it works is only when a capability is fully released are we showing progress against the milestone. Now, this milestone only has 1 capability, so it's not a particularly good test. But if in real life there were 2 or 3 different capabilities that had to get done, then you would basically track only as a capability is 100% completed. So it's showing 0% complete because the capability itself is not completed. If the capability was in the completed status, or the done status, I should say, that's when that particular milestone will show either a percentage complete or fully complete. So that's one important distinction. Just because 1/4 of the capability has been completed does not mean that that capability is done. And so the milestone will show not done. Because the reason is otherwise, the risk is you have, as you can see here, we've got 3 capabilities that are 25% done, 50% done, and 67% done. But as you know, until it's 100% done, the customer can't use it. Done is done. So from a business value standpoint, that's an important design decision. With that, we've gone through, just to recap, we've gone through the concept of Scaled Agile, the design. We've looked at some of the new functionality in the app. We looked at how you can define capabilities, look at existing ones, how you can define milestones, how you can link them together, how the status changes. We've seen we can customize them at the program level for both milestones and capabilities, and that you can have both customization of the standard fields, status type priority, and also the custom properties. So as of right now, there are no reports yet. If you notice, there is no reporting tab. That will be coming. And the intention is going forward is to build out more functionality. Now, one last thing to mention is we are tracking history for these changes for these new artifacts. It is not yet shown in the UI, but we are tracking it behind the scenes. So we will be able to add that, make it visible later on. So we're building some things for the future that are not yet available in the first version. Similarly, the reporting, the data is available in reporting. So for those who desperately want to report on things right now, you can make custom reports using the eSQL. The artifacts are available. What we haven't yet done is added the ability to have a separate reporting tab at the program level to make it more natural. So if you absolutely have to report on things right now, the capabilities and milestones are reportable entities that you can use in select statements. You can build custom reports, but there's no reporting tab yet. You would have to do it from the product level, which is basically a workaround. You could create a custom report here, and even though it's at a product level, you could pull it from the parent program and make it work, but it's not particularly natural. It's not where you look to go. So that's just a temporary workaround. So you can do reporting today by creating custom reports at this level, but as we go forward, you will see at the program level, if you went to customer experience in the future, you will see a program reporting tab as well. The other thing we haven't yet done that's coming, as you look at here, you see these requirements completion at the program level. So all these widgets and dashboard items you see here, requirements completion, product completion, those are all based still on requirements. They haven't yet been updated to do with capabilities. The current thinking is to add another tab where you can have a capability view. That way, if you're not using capabilities, you don't lose the current functionality. But if you're using capabilities, you get this higher level view with more strategic planning options. So with that, that's today's demonstration and overview of the new functionality. If you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A. And with that, I'm going to move on to Q&A.
Thanks so much, Adam. That was a fantastic presentation of both the overall strategy for implementing program milestones and capabilities, but then the in-app application as well. We do have some questions coming in. This one is talking about potential REST API for capabilities and milestones.
Good questions. I believe we have added the. I should double check. I believe we have added the API for that. If we haven't, it's definitely going to be available. It will be available only in the 7.0 API. It will be not, obviously for compatibility, we don't update the old APIs. So if you are on version 7.7, and I will double check to see if it's available right now. If it isn't available in the current version, then it will be available for sure in future versions, but it will only be in the 7.7 API, 7.0 version API. And we can check. If you want to check live, you can click on control here and you go to your version 7 API. So let's see. Go here. Do we have capability? Oh, we have capabilities. Look at that. We have capabilities. We have capability priorities, capability requirements, associations, capability statuses and types. So we do currently have it. I wasn't sure if it made the final release, but it did. So yes, we do have capabilities and milestones in the API, but you have to be on the version 7 API. It will not be in the version 6 API.
Okay, fantastic. Another question, can you move or export artifacts of type requirement to and from artifacts of type capabilities?
Not currently. No, you can't. If you have requirements defined at a product level, there's not an automated way at present to turn them into capabilities. You would have to go into capabilities and create them, or export from Excel and import through the API. So yeah, there's not currently a way to do that.
And then another question here, can you have or see relationships between milestones, like an internal demo before capability public is available?
Oh, good question. Yeah, can you create, so could you create a dependency to say, do one before the other? Mm-hmm. I do not believe that is currently possible. There is no association functionality yet between milestones, but that's a good idea.
Excellent. And then someone's asking about the availability of 7.7. So it's available for download now, but then will be released to cloud customers this weekend.
That is correct. On Saturday.
During the normal maintenance
window. Yeah.
Any other questions from our fantastic attendees? While we have Adam. All right, I don't see any additional questions. So thank you so much, Adam, for this fantastic demo. The recording will be available later too. There was a lot of information covered, so you may want to replay that so that you can slowly kind of, have all of that information intake there. So, so with that, thanks so much to our attendees for joining us today, and thank you, Adam, for presenting.
Thank you for hosting, and I appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for attending. And see you at the next webinar. And again, if you have feedback on the new version, please let us know. We want to hear your thoughts on it as well as you start using it.
Excellent. Bye now.
Bye.